All right, it is 6 o'clock. We will get started for the Georgetown-Scott County Planning Commission for the month of March. And before we get into the official business, I would just like to make everyone aware that last several months the staff and the commissioners have been discussing some procedural questions, and last month we voted to limit the time that people speak in order to move it along. We have had in the past groups come in and have 6 or 8 or 10 people say the same thing over and over and over again. And not that we want to limit anybody's speech or anything, but you know, we don't need to hear the same thing all over again. And we have had people get off the subject. And we're here, if we were here to discuss a zone change, you know, it doesn't do us any good to hear about something that really doesn't concern that zone change, and we've had those from time to time. We will be as lenient as we can be. We're, you know, if it goes to 3 minutes and 45 seconds, we're not going to cut you off or anything like that. But just be mindful of all of your other neighbors in the area. And then if there is a group that would like to get together and have one spokesman, and he or she may want to speak for 5 or 6 minutes instead of 4 or 5 people speaking for 3 minutes, we can accommodate that also. So we just wanted to make you aware of that, and you will see a clock up here in a little while, and so that's what that's for.
I'll try my best not to screw it up since it's the first time I'm using it, right?
Yeah.
Do my best.
And like I say, we're not here to mess over anybody. We're just trying to keep from going till 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
And be respectful of everybody's time who's waiting too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have to sign up to speak, or how does it?
Yes, please. If you're going to speak tonight, sign up at the lectern there, and then we'll, in a few minutes, we will have Mr. Perkins swear you in.
Well, we're going to do all the answers that I'm concerned now that I dropped it somewhere. So while you're going through all these minutes,
Okay.
somebody wants to just,
All
I want
right.
to make sure it's not out the street.
Right, okay.
Sorry.
I need the first item of business is the approval of the February invoices.
I'll move to approve.
Made by Mr. Smith
Second.
and second by Mr. Jesse. All in favor, say aye. Any opposition, say nay. And the February invoices is approved. Approved of the February minutes. And I just want to make you aware that in February we had a executive committee meeting, and so you see those discussions at the bottom of the minutes. Some of the members may not recognize those. I don't remember that. Well, you didn't remember it because it was in the executive meeting, but then they are added to that month's minutes. So I'll take a motion and a second for the approval of the February minutes.
I'll move to approve.
Again by Mr. Smith
I'll second that motion.
and Mr. Stone, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then approval of the March 14th agenda. Do we have no changes to it? All right, we're good to go here. I'll take a motion.
Motion, Graham.
Mr. Vest
Second.
and Mr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, items for postponement or withdrawal, and so under old business, we have Cherry Blossom Village that has been postponed. So if you're here to hear anything about Cherry Blossom Village, that will not be heard tonight. That's postponed, so we don't know when. Okay. Consent agenda.
You have two.
Have two?
Items A under old business and item A under new business.
Okay.
Which under new, did she say A?
A under both old and new. Yeah. All right, Mr. Perkins, will you please swear everyone in
Yes,
that
sir.
wants to speak?
Everyone signed in to speak. If you please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the statement you're to make tonight to be the truth to the best of your information and belief? Thank you.
All right. Ms. Singer, I think she left her phone in the car, but was afraid she dropped it, so she was backtracking to see that. So she'll be returning in just a minute, but we will continue. First item is the Sanderson property, FSP 2024-01, final subdivision plat to create one 8.313 acre parcel and amend existing lot lines on two existing lots located at 1100 Lloyd Road. That is consent, which means that there are the owners are not asking for any variables or amendments, and so we can approve it just by voting on it, because we've already heard it at workshop, unless there is someone that is opposed to that development or would like to hear it. Is there anyone that is opposed to Sanderson property on Lloyd Road? All right, it is consent eligible. So I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve that item, FSP 2024-01.
I have a motion, a second.
I'll second it.
Smith. All right, Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So if those owners will see Mr. Perkins down at the end and sign the appropriate paperwork, we can get going. Did you find it?
I did in the street, so it's a good thing.
Conditions of approval.
Next to the car, I guess if you're waiting on it.
All right, the next item under new business is also consent eligible, FSP 2024-08, Cavell property. Did I pronounce that right this time? Final subdivision plat to subdivide a 21.47 acre farm into three parcels with associated access easement located at 290 Carrick Pike. Get my numbers straight here. And again, that is consent eligible unless we have anyone that is opposed to that or would like to hear it. Is there anyone here that is opposed to that development?
If it has to do with the access on Sterling, there's several of us that are opposed to it.
It does.
Okay.
So you would like to hear it then?
Yes.
All right, we will hear that, and that's first item. So Elise, if you could present that to us, please.
That's this one?
We will hear the staff report first, and then we'll hear from the owners, and then we'll open it up to the public.
Thank you.
This is FSP 2024-08, final subdivision plat to subdivide a 21.4 acre farm into 3 parcels with 2 associated access easements located at 290 Carrick Pike. It's an A1 zone parcel, and the proposed new parcels would range from 5 acres to 11.06 acres, with direct access off of Carrick Pike or Sterling Drive, depending upon the parcel in question. And there are no variances associated with this application. So this is, and we've seen this before, so I painstakingly drew together our kind of what's the context of what was the Veralis farm so far. Most of it, probably about 60% of these lots, have been purchased by private owners, and the applicant is one of those owners. Specifically, we're looking at the Veralis property from May of 2022. This is one of those lots that was created. And then here's a little bit more of a zoomed in lot here. So the orange outline is the 21 and some acre parcel, and then the red line is the access easement that's shared between 2 of the parcels subdivided from the larger farm at the same time in May. Our standard rule is no greater than 3 lots may use an access easement. So as part of this application, and I'll get into it in a second, 2 of the proposed lots are not going to use that access easement and instead forego their use of it to that front lot, that lot 6A. This is a more specific layout of what the plan is for this property. So you can see on the bottom or the south side of everything is the access easement shared between 2 of the lots, and then the front lot that's being proposed, which measures about 5.4 acres. The other 2 lots without road frontage require access and utility easements, which are proposed to come off of the cul-de-sac bulb of Sterling Drive through a parcel off of Sterling Drive that has an existing entrance. So this would be a proposed one that would travel along the north property line of that specific property, down the property line, around an existing pond, to parcel 6C, which is the one that adjoins the Sterling Drive parcel specifically, and then kind of upwards at an angle to get to parcel 6B. So with this access easement, they're looking to maintain their utility use and everything like that. At this time, I'm not certain if the County Roads Department has gone out and approved any entrance locations, but Sterling Drive is county maintained, so they do need to get entrance approval prior to any platting and everything like that. So we'll need to have everybody go out to the property and make sure. There really is not anything else besides this one. Again, it's just unique that this parcel is kind of tagging into an existing parcel's frontage and lot and road that they're off of. And ultimately, staff does recommend approval. It satisfies all of our requirements for subdivision, access and utility access is maintained, and they meet all of our minimum lot size standards, variance, or not variance, lot width standards, kind of all of our expectations and rules for new subdivisions. We recommend 4 conditions of approval. These are standard for, they adhere to our regs, they get their plat reviewed and make sure that everything doesn't change too much. They get GIS stuff taken care of, and then it's subject to 2-year clause, which is our sunset clause. Besides
There are 5
that,
on here.
I'm sorry, what?
There are 5 conditions.
Oh, then that is an error on my part. I will stand corrected, and there's the 5th condition, thank you. That would be that all new entrances require county road superintendent approval. That should be reflected on the conditions of approval. It's just the failure to identify it on the presentation itself.
Can you go back to the map, that
This
one right
one?
there? The very bottom, where the blue line is. Hey, look here. What 2 lots are sharing that driveway?
So
This one down there, yeah.
is being shared by this parcel located up in this kind of corner, and this one just south of it. They're kind of nested flag lots within themselves. And then it would be also shared by 6A.
Okay,
And then the other one, the new entrance is gonna come along this property line here, come back up and serve 6C and 6B.
all right. And so the bottom right-hand lot right there, that's got its own driveway?
Correct.
Okay. And you mentioned Monday in the staff meeting that Sterling Drive ends in a cul-de-sac back there. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Thank you, Elise.
New toys.
All right, does the owner or owner's representative have, would like to say anything?
Hello, I'm Yuri Vogel, this is my wife.
Come on up to the,
okay. Hello, yeah, what Elise said was pretty much dead on. The only thing that I wanted to add was, after the fact of, when we went ahead and went through with the process, there were some neighbors who raised some concerns, some legitimate concerns. So we have 3 kids. We have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So we completely understand each and one of their concerns about adding traffic to Sterling, and just some of the unknowns and stuff. And so originally, at least, may I use your little pointer, please? So this lot right here, this 6B here was actually not really supposed to happen. It was kind of like an afterthought. I was thinking, since I had kind of the option to do it for maybe for my son down the road or something. But the neighbors are like, whoa, so you're telling me now that there's gonna be, 1 or 2 houses down there? And the idea is always to have a farm. We have a hobby farm back in another area. We just wanted less house, more land. So the ultimate dream is just to keep this lot right here, which would be like 16 acres, and not do that. So if this is something that is a huge concern, that, yeah, you're saying there's only be 1 house, but there's gonna be 2, I am, just to be transparent completely, I'm totally ready to redraw that and omit it, and need be, if I need to put restrictions into like a separate document, into a lien or something that cannot be subdivided further, I'm prepared to do that. I don't want to do that because, like I said, I like the idea of my kid growing up and saying, hey, buddy, you want to build, it's like, it's my son. I think that's not, I think that's within my rights to do that. Also, the party that is interested in this lot here, they're great people. They're a little older, and their kids are grown, so they're not concerned about the traffic here. I have a 5-year-old who loves her bike, loves a little pedal bike, and when we originally, even when we were looking at buying this, we were just dreaming if there's a way to come in Sterling for that cul-de-sac so that my kids can, walk their dog, and just to have that option. So, I don't know. I guess I understand I'm an intruder, and I'm at a neighbor's mercy for that. But really, the ask is just let me in the club.
Well,
1 more house.
we're just 1 residence, and
Yeah.
that would essentially just be our driveway.
Yeah.
And we're just asking to be part of the neighborhood and
Yeah.
build our home with our farm.
Yeah.
And we'll have animals. You guys can bring your kids. And
Yeah.
That's our hope. So.
And I met Brian. He's an awesome guy, and I can't wait. I can tell John Brian, I cannot wait to prove to him that I'd be a good addition to the neighborhood. And one of the things that me and Brian really agreed on was he was saying that he's constantly driving up and down that area, fishing or just for maintenance of his property, and we just kind of came together and realized that would really be beneficial for both of us, because I would be responsible for building the driveway and maintaining it, and he has full rights to use it, and that's all going to be written on a document so that there's no miscommunications or disagreements. Thank you.
Yuri, let me ask you.
Yes, sir.
Yuri, is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's perfect.
Let me ask you a question. So, you live in an existing house over there now?
I live like off of Cherry Creek, which is like 5 minutes on the other side of.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but there is an existing residence on that property?
No, sir.
There was some miscommunication that the home that is being built right over here is ours, but that's a whole separate.
That's a 19-acre lot.
No, up in yours, it shows an existing house.
No, we have, there's nothing built there.
Where?
That may be the Geary Properties house.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it says Brian Geary and Carla Geary.
That's
Oh, okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's where the
Yeah.
drive was gonna go.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
our.
that's good, okay,
Yeah,
I
so this lot
got you.
here is Brian Gary's, you're at 8 acres roughly? Yes, okay.
All right.
Brian's house is right there. And there's nothing on this lot. Matter of fact, there's a big old pond right here. None of this is This is just gorgeous to stare at.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just solve that. Okay, thank you much.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else that would like to address the commission?
Yes.
Ron,
Come right on up. State your name and your address, please.
My name is Brian Gary, and I'm the other property owner, and I live at 121 Sterling Drive. And I've been there, October will be 23 years that I've lived in the neighborhood. It's my forever neighborhood. That's where I always intended, once I bought the property, that I'm going to spend my time there. That's where I'm going to end up and die there. But one of the other things that I wanted when I bought that property was it was the kind of property that you could build a pond on. And I did that. There was no pond there. There were no trees on the property when I bought it. Now there's over 100 trees. There's a pond. And I do for 15 years, that pond has been there. And I have let people come, if they ask permission, I will let them fish at that pond, as long as they follow my rules. And I love to see when families come out there to fish, especially little kids, because to me, I call it a catching pond. It's not a fishing pond. It's a catching pond. And little kids can come out there and they can throw their Scooby-Doo pole out there and they can pull in fish. It's a fishing, they're catching fish. They're not just throwing a line out, which that's my whole thing is I like to see that. And I have a lot of families. I've probably got 20 people that come out there and they drive down through that property right now, down to the back of where the pond is, where the breast is. And I let them do that. I told them they can do that. I just don't like them to do it after it rains. Give it 3 days after it rains so it doesn't rut up. Well, they don't always follow those rules. So there are quite a few ruts down through there, and I deal with them. I have to mow over them, nobody else. It's my property, and I've told them they could do it, and that's fine. But I also drive all the way to the back of the pond. I've got a burn pile that I'll put back there, and that, when I get enough, I'll burn it. It's out of sight, it's out of mind, and it's safe to burn on the back side of that pond. And so I use it as a site for that. So I drive up and down through there also. And like I say, my wife and I, we've always talked, wouldn't it be nice to have a road, some kind of driveway down through there where people could walk or drive their vehicles down through there and not drive on the grass and park down there and fish and then leave. I mean, it's 1,100 feet from the court down there. It's not, for some people, for older people especially, it's beneficial for them to drive. And I'll be 62 in October, so I say people my age, and I know there's people my age that have trouble, that have MS and have trouble walking, and I don't care that they go down there and they fish there. I 100% don't care about that. But that's my thing. I've always wanted to have that driveway down through there, so I didn't have to worry about my pond being, when they go to the pond, it's all rutted up. And I didn't approach him. He came to me, and it was kind of like, well, that would solve two problems. One for him, which is access, and one for me, which is letting people go down to that pond, drive down there and fish, and then drive back out. And it also, as long as I have easement rights to it or use of it, and that was one of the things we said, people have to have the use of the road that he's going to use for the drive to also go down to that pond. And I was okay with that. That's what we agreed to. The other thing that it's not quite right, it says that the road will go down the property line. And I thought we discussed this before. I don't want it down the fence line. I want it to kind of meander down through the yard to the pond. I don't want it straight down the fence line, and it'll look better. And it's my yard. I have to look at it every day. I'll look out there and see it. And I want a yard that looks nice. I don't want a yard that is got a road that's just gravel over dirt and is all potholed and that kind of thing. And we've talked about this, that's part of the agreement is I'm not going to, I don't want that. And if that's the way it's going to be, then I'm not going to have that driveway put down in there.
Hey, Brian?
Yes.
Time out a second here. This is the first night with this 3-minute rule, and I don't feel comfortable with it. I'm going to suspend that and let you all speak, and we may have to adjust that, make it to 5 minutes or something, but I don't feel like that 3 minutes.
Yeah, I saw it flash, and I was.
I did too. We've got one that we could look at. So I'm going to suspend that 3-minute rule as long as it's not
I'm
abused there.
I'm close. I'm
you're
about
fine. You're fine.
I'm about
You're
finished.
making you hadn't repeated yourself a dozen times there, so you're good.
And the only other thing I'll say about that, like I said, that to me it would be a dream, and I don't feel like it's a devaluation of my property. I feel like to me that enhances my property because other people can get down there and use that a lot easier than they can right now. That's all I'll say about the access to that to the pond. The other thing that I'm pretty sure that we get out of this if this goes through is we get 2 fire hydrants on the street that we don't have right now. The closest fire hydrant we have now is off Carrick Pike. There's not one on the whole Sterling Drive. And it's to my knowledge that there would be 2 fire hydrants put in there if this goes through, which would be a benefit to everybody on the street. So that's the other side of that. You know, it's as far as the pond and the access road driveway, really and the amount of people that use it, nobody's really gonna. It's not going to be any more traffic for one family than we have already. I have people come out there in the evenings to fish all the time. Saturdays and Sundays are busy. There might be 5, 6, 7 cars down there fishing at one time. It's a busy day on the weekend out there. So as far as worrying about how much more traffic is going to be involved, well, they've only got 2 vehicles, so you'll not, unless you're going to stand at the end of the street and count cars and know who's out there, how are you going to see the difference than what there is right now? But thank you for your time, and that's all I have to say, and thank you very much.
Thanks for your input, Brian, being as it comes across your property. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
So my name is Alex Martin. We live on the other side of the Gearys here, and essentially we met the Urys. They seem like great people, seem like great neighbors, but our stance is that they have an access road coming off Carrick already. That should be where they come from. Hearing Brian say it could meander through his property now sounds like it might encroach onto mine, which I think would devalue my property. And so really my stance is this, is that I'm opposed to it. I would love to see them become our neighbors, come in off of Carrick Pike, and just, that's kind of my stance on it. So I don't really have anything else to add.
Thank you, Alex.
I'm Alex's wife. My name is Lindsay. Also the Gary's neighbor. So I first want to just start by saying that this is hard, right? Because we all are a very close, tight-knit street. So when you do something like this, there is immediate awkwardness amongst neighbors. Like, we get along very well with Brian, and the new neighbors stopped by and introduced themselves. They are great people. They really are. And I told them that to their face. You are great people. I don't want great people to put a road right next to my yard. And that's okay for me to have that opinion, right? So Alex and I did what we had to do. We've worked very hard. We just are turning 40 this year. We had to sell rental properties. We had to be smart with our money and do things to be able to buy the 6.5 acres in the house that we have on Sterling Drive. So we look out our back door and we don't see a car in sight, and it is wonderful. Obviously, when Brian has people over to go fishing, that doesn't bother us. That's his land. If he wants to enjoy it, that is his right to do so. I do not want a road on my next door neighbor's property that opens up a Pandora's box to other houses. So while right now it might be one, who is to say, and I should have said this before, I own my own brokerage here in Georgetown, Kentucky Land and Home, one of Scott County's top selling realtors. I understand property values. I understand what these kind of things do. I see it every single day. And I think Tess and Bernie would probably echo what I say. So right now, while it's just one house, we saw people have to sell for all sorts of reasons. They get divorced, somebody passes away, there's a relocation, job changes. Like, who is to say they don't have to sell off 5 acres and make another $200,000? So then you just opened the Pandora's box from what was one house to now maybe 3 or 4, and then it could continue on past that. We don't want the construction down Sterling Drive. Our road is already older
probably needs to be redone at this point. We have the 2 little kids, there are little kids, there's horse riders, there's people that walk on it, we just don't want it. When we bought there, we were under the assumption that it was a finished development. We weren't going to have to worry about this kind of thing, or else we could have bought, you all know, just about anywhere else in Georgetown that is under development. And I had one more point. We do have a petition here from the neighbors. We have 16 signatures on it that are opposing it. If you all want to see that too, I'll leave it up here. And I also want to add that this is a little bit more, I guess, meaningful to me. And I said that, Alex and I did the things that we did to be able to afford the house we have. So I'm born and raised in Scott County. If you know Kentuckiana Farms, then you're familiar with my dad. So it was special to be able to buy what we did in Scott County, to have what we have, and to stay here and raise our family. And I want to continue that. I want to keep that. I don't want to open up, they refer to it as a new subdivision. That is absolutely what I do not want. So I just ask you all to consider that. And while it might meet planning and zoning's requirements, it doesn't meet ours, and it doesn't meet what we bought the house for.
Thank you, Lynn. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, come right on up.
Hey, so as Lindsay mentioned, my husband and I are both realtors as well. I'm Tess Utterback. I live towards the front of Sterling. We bought the property 12 years ago, and we bought it because I wanted to have my horses at home. My daughter is 9. We ride our horse down the road pretty much every day. We're like the mounted neighborhood patrol. And the last thing I want is more traffic on the road. There's already people that drive entirely too fast, and we always have to watch. And I appreciate that the neighbors share the road with us, and we are able to ride our horses down the road, and I have a neighbor that shares her arena with us. So we ride that back and forth. Again, they're lovely people, I'm sure, and it's not that we don't want to be neighbors. We just don't want more traffic. And the biggest concern for me isn't the daily traffic when they move in, it's the construction traffic when they're building. And that could be one house, and that, like she said, it could be 2, it could be 3. And we don't know what's going to happen in the county's future. What if they change the 5-acre rule to 2 acres, and then it can be broken down more, and then we have even more coming onto that road. So I just don't want to see it like the Martins. We bought this as our forever home. We love having our daughter here and raising her there, and we want it to stay how it is. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rich Anderson. My wife Kim is here. We live at the corner of Sterling Drive up by Carrick Pike. I won't waste a lot of time repeating some of the things that have been said so far. I would point out that this exception to the development was not presented in the original development of the adjoining property. And in my view, it's a material change, as you've seen from the turnout tonight, that there are people concerned about it. I'm not sure the original development would have proceeded next door had we had this kind of input, but at the time we thought we were on a secure cul-de-sac. The second point is that enforceable rules-based zoning has been an essential pillar to development of the area in this rural neighborhood, and it has drawn in considerable capital from surrounding counties that have a lot more flexible, and I use that euphemism, to their zoning process. And so we want to be sure that we understand that this is an important aspect. Traffic has been mentioned. I want to add to that. The advent of the small mail order parcel delivery service by the various services has already added an unexpected daily traffic load on Sterling Drive. It's essentially a constant den of small vans and sometimes larger vans running up and down, and shameful to admit it, but we're one of the reasons. UPS is our best friend. They know us by name.
Why did he look at you when he said that?
I rarely order things. When I do, it's something I need. But moving right along. Lastly, I would like to point out on the plat, we've already heard some objection to the so-called final plat. If you look at the introduction, the access proposal for Tract 6A, as was reviewed by your staff person earlier, was the access would be via the Carrick Pike access road. That is in conflict with Note 11 on the plat, which says that Tract A has the right to use the same, referring to the new easement. That would be a material issue that should be corrected.
I'll take 10 seconds, and I'm going to waste your time in repeating some things because I feel strongly about it. I do think this sets a precedent for further development. The couples say, one family, we don't know that. They could leave, they could die, it could lead to others. And we don't want that to happen, all right? The other thing is, many of us moved in there thinking we had a final cul-de-sac. Many of us waited to see what the area was going to look like before we built, okay? And we built with the idea it was going to be a final cul-de-sac, and we want to keep it that way. I know other neighbors have built based on it being a final cul-de-sac that their children can play on. And so we are totally against this and hope you take it into consideration.
Thank you. Is there anyone
I
else?
think Elise had a
I was
response
just
too.
gonna make a note on that,
Material change.
note 11.
Uh-huh.
So, and this is just the way that the surveyor noted it. So the parcels that are being subdivided for the Caval property are identified as like 6 hyphen a letter. And then Tract A references specifically the Geary property. So there gets kind of this weird conundrum of, well, parcel 6A says this and Tract A says something else. And they reference 2 different plats but have a similar identifier. So just wanted to clarify that one. It is really weird. We can work with the surveyor on that nomenclature, but at least from our interpretation, it's easement A is through the Geary property, also identified as Tract A, but is not associated with parcel 6A. It's a lot of A's. Might as well go to Canada, but you know.
At least while you're standing there, I have a couple of questions. There are a couple of references about new fire hydrants. How does that happen?
So this is something that was, to my limited understanding, planned by the Scott County Fire Department without regard to this proposed subdivision. It was identified as a road that needed fire hydrants added, and so they took on the additional cost and did it, not really considering like, okay, Ferales and the Caval properties are doing things. So I believe they've installed 2, but I believe they may be putting in 3 kind of down that road to serve those properties.
So they're going to do it anyway?
They're doing it anyway, yes.
And then my second question is about the reference about the Carrick Road entrance.
Yes.
So is it absolutely necessary that they have this Sterling entrance to do what they're wanting to do? Could they do the same thing using the Carrick?
They could, so the entrance off of Carrick right now that this tract was originally proposed to operate off of is at maximum capacity of the 3 users. And so if they want to subdivide, they kind of have 2 options. They either improve that entrance for however long that entrance is to county road standard with turnarounds and appropriate pavement width and right-of-way, or they find an alternative route through a parcel that has road frontage but does not have an access easement that meets or exceeds the 3 parcels using it. So that's where they've kind of come up with this entrance off of Sterling. They could, if they were able to, and they could connect to any other roads through town through an easement or access easement or anything like that, but they've made an arrangement, to my understanding, to use the one off of Sterling.
And who would be responsible to make all the cost of these changes to Carrick Road? The landowners on that road, or is it the county that would make?
Are you specifically talking about the access
Yes.
easement? That is at cost to the users of it. It's part of an agreement that they would have with it. I have the plat for when this property was first subdivided in May of '22, if you want to look at it. but it does reference like that easement that was meant to be used by the whole 21 acres is gonna have shared maintenance with the 2 other parcels also using that easement.
And that already exists.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Elise, just to clarify, they can put the road from their lot to Carrick if they pave it. They're just at the max lots right now.
So they can use an unimproved driveway for up to 3 lots. So if they wanted 4, they could, if they improve that road to, Ben can speak better on the specs. County standards, they could put more than 3 users on it, but they would have to put in that investment for it. I don't know the going rate of per footage, what that would look like, but that is always an option for any of these. If you wanted to subdivide it and you had the lot size that would allow for you to subdivide it into more than 3 lots on one easement, it's always an option. It's just,
And it would be an option for this particular project?
it potentially could be. It is a rather long easement, probably about 150, 200 feet long. I can't exactly read it from here to tell you what the exact width is and distance. They do have to also consider the willingness of the other property owners, because this is a shared maintenance easement. So the owners of the parcel directly to the north and then the other user of that parcel would kind of have to come to terms with all of that, which is another factor that shouldn't be really in play because that's more of a private easement thing, but
Okay.
that is something to kind of consider with that shared easement arrangement.
May I clarify?
Yes, sir.
So,
Maybe come up to the
Gary,
mic.
come on up to the mic, please.
So with that was actually the original, well, originally I didn't want to come in from Sterling for my family's sake, just to be off the cul-de-sac. It's obviously a lot more appealing. And actually I approached Milton at the time because it kind of seemed like it would be a better option to do it that way. And Milton was like, hey, no, I'm not interested in that. And he suggested that I ask Brian at the time, because you can ask Brian. And I glanced over at Brian's property, and it's all just beautifully green manicured. And I didn't even have the audacity to ask him, and I just kind of left, right? And then we went forward with talking about improving that road. The reason I would have to improve it is not so I can build on it, but it's because that 21 acres, it's a big lot, and it's not awkwardly shaped to where I'd like to put a house up there, and this one just kind of, to be honest, I couldn't afford to just keep, without giving that one away. And so we went through the process with engineering to go ahead and improve that road. And because it's gravel, I'd have to bring it up to city standards, which would mean I'd have to build the fire hydrants, which the fire hydrants themselves aren't that expensive, but the water line is $100 a foot, which was going to add up to about, with the fire hydrant, about $100,000 plus the road. I was looking at about $240,000. That's well more than the actual lot is worth. So that was dead in the water for me. And again, like I said, just the so everything kind of fell through, and I just one day just drove down Sterling. I've driven down Sterling several times just as a dream. I drove him down one time, and Brian's dogs were out running around playing, and I thought, what the heck? So I pulled over, and I just hey, as a last resort, and I asked him, and Brian expressed his wish. He's like, hey, I actually would really love that. So if we can't do it from Sterling, then basically I can't do it at all. Because I'm not a developer, I don't have lots of money. This is just the only way to make this happen for me. I know that's not you guys' problem. It's just kind of like when I bought it, I was like really hoping to find a way to sell out that 5 acres so that I can potentially move forward with doing my
And when you first spoke, you said something about you'd be willing to.
Oh, right. So that was that 6.8. I'm sorry, 6B. Yeah. Like I said, that was Pat Darnell drew it up as like a, hey, just in case it's ever.
Meaning like you could do this.
Yeah, you could. Well, you could, and like I don't ever see me like building on it because it really intrudes on. If you go stand out there, it would be like it's really intruding. So if that's something that the neighbors are concerned about as traffic, because I'm willing to do whatever it takes to solidify this is just one house. like I said, if me and Brian talked about attaching it to the deed, that's something that needs to be done. That's something that will move you guys forward to a yay. Then I would do that, no problem. Because like I said, the only reason I have that is I'm thinking, you know, my kid, like I said, if he grows up, I know some of the neighbors are like, trust me, you don't want your kid living next to you. But right now we're best friends, and I thought it'd be kind of cool if he could live next to me.
Thank you, Yuri.
Wait till he's a teenager.
Is there anyone else that would like, yes, sir?
I have a question. Is there any way that they can put another road alongside the existing gravel road? Is there enough room?
Along which road?
The existing gravel road that comes off Carrick. Is there enough
That's
room?
what he was talking about. It was gonna cost him $100,000.
Right, but is there enough room, in other words, to put two drives?
The same path, just over.
Right.
So it wouldn't impact the
Right.
entryway for
One
everybody
drive
else.
going to his properties and the other drive going to the other existing properties.
Elise?
What he wants with that, if he wanted to. It's not, it's meant for access and utility use. What the materials of it are or how it weighs on that is really kind of at their discretion. If they want it paved steel, like, we can pave it with concrete, they can have it with gravel. Just with the shared easement, it's kind of, you don't know who.
But there'd be a room to put one beside it instead
Is
of
there
putting it
room
over
for-
top of it.
Yeah, it's about 100 feet wide, so
So there would be two.
potentially,
So I believe the answer is no, because the city is not allowing us, it's already gravel, and there's 3 lots coming off of it.
Mhm.
In order to do a 4th, the only option is to just widen it, because you can only have.
You can't-
By the way, if that wasn't an option, I would love that, except for not having, living on.
Well, that have to be approved by the state though, right? Another driveway. You can't
The city or county?
The county.
It's county maintained, so it's
Oh,
county road.
okay.
Having two kind of pretty much 25 feet apart would probably not fly with, county road and everything like that. When we're looking at roads and a driveway separation, we're looking at 300 feet of separation or shared, where possible. Or they
Side by side.
They could be side by side, I stand corrected.
They could be?
They could be.
So that is a potential solution?
They could do something like that.
But what approval would it require?
Yeah, they're already, I thought it was already 2 driveways, is it, on this 100 foot?
That's what I thought.
There's a huge slope.
I mean, how were you, originally, how were you gonna annex? You bought it without this even being in your mind. How were you gonna get back there anyway? That's what I'm confused about with the question about another road. You already had plans to get back there. What were those plans before this came upon you?
There's one gravel road there now.
Right.
That's only allowed to have a 19-acre lot, the 5-acre in mine.
Yeah.
And I do want to add that it's pretty bad shape.
Yuri, could you come up to the, this is being
so-
recorded here, so we need it for the record.
As far as the county is telling me, and I've been there plenty of times, I'm talking about building the road to city standards, that was the only way to add a 4th lot. Right now,
But
there's
that's on one road, right?
Yeah.
If you
So
added
can
a
you put a
separate
second road?
Right along next to it. So
Yeah.
there's kind of a good slope there. I'm not sure if that'll do it, but right now there's one gravel road on on the one easement, and I think at least that on this one easement of 100 feet, it's considered like you're only allowed to have one road on that. You can't put another road on the same easement. It has to be on a separate easement. So in order for me to have a second road, gravel, alongside, it'd have to be rezoned on along somebody else's property. I don't think that they're allowed. So here's the thing. When I originally went and asked all these questions, they were saying, hey, this is okay, that's okay, we can try that. And I was actually doing my homework.
Is it the county you're talking about?
Yeah, and then I did my homework and I said, I don't know if that's going to be okay. So then I went and talked to the fire marshal, and they're like, yeah, you're right. We won't be able to do this unless you do that. So, they're not on the same page some of the time, and I'm glad I did my homework there because I would have been in a little bit of trouble. So right now, knowing the codes, the access road that's on there, it's a 100-foot easement, and per their rules, I'm allowed to have one road, doesn't matter if it's gravel, doesn't matter how wide it is, it's one to serve 3. If you wanna serve 4, the only way to do it is to widen it to 20 feet,
Like it
the whole
counts
shebang,
things.
yeah. To add a gravel, like what you're asking about, the only way to do that is to have an additional easement, separate from the 100. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elise?
I have a question, if I could,
Yes, ma'am, come back up to the,
just from a real estate point of view.
When we sell property, we have a due diligence period when you're under contract, and that's when you're supposed to find out all of these things. So what I don't understand is why this is happening now, and if I understand correctly, because didn't hear it straight from them, the reason this is all happening is he wants to sell 5 acres off of that 20 acres. And he wants to sell off the front 5 acres, which means then he loses his access. If he sold the back 5 acres, that'd be that person's problem. So I just don't really understand, A, why wasn't this handled during the contract period? Why did you buy a property that you didn't have access to? And B, why don't you sell the back and let them through your property? I mean, that would solve the problem, right?
Yeah, so in order for me to, may I use her? In order for you to sell, divide and sell anything out here in the back, the only way to subdivide that is to create easement. I can't subdivide a lot in the middle that is only accessible with a helicopter. So I would, if that was possible, but like I said, you can't have a lot that has no access.
You can give a road easement through your property, it's devaluing your property, but you can give a road easement through
So
your property.
you're right, you're starting only at this point right here. But all this, so right here, this easement has reached its maximum capability. So I would totally do that and build, if I had the right to do that, I'd come up here and get access to here. But the problem is right there.
Did you buy it thinking that you'd be able to split it? Did the realtor tell you you
No.
could split this?
Yeah, so
I think that's irrelevant, honestly. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
we have to, this is being recorded, and we have to have you at the mic up here. You can ask all the questions you want, but please do it from up here, please.
So do you want to explain then
Sure. I mean, I bought it with intention to build my dream home. And there's a couple of different ways to go about it. I thought maybe I could do it this way, and the original plan was to fork out, it was $120,000 to do it before, and I thought, well, that's a lot of money, but it adds up. It adds up. But then with the fire hydrants that came in, that jumped, and some other things with that, there's quite a slope here that in order to make the road wider, it was gonna be a lot of rock, and we're not looking at 240, which I don't know if you guys are average people around here or not, but that's an insane number. So, that was the original plan. I can't stress enough that when we originally looked at it, we drove it to Sterling, and that was a dream that I thought it wasn't even a possibility. But Brian's making it a possibility, and he's benefiting it just as much as I am, from what I understand. He's just as excited about this as I am. And I just wanted to add also, we had 7 acres back home. We had 4 cows that we would cycle through the refrigerator. 4 goats that give birth. Me and my wife would neuter and take care of it, and all ourselves. We had 4 horses also that me and my kids rode the same way up and down our driveway. So I'm a perfect fit for this neighborhood. I really am. Like, I can't wait to prove it to them.
So I guess I don't know, from my standpoint anyway, there's 2 kind of open questions. Is it possible or not to have 2 next to each other?
I don't think it is.
And then the second question, if that's no, would be what are the potential limitations that could be placed on it that might ease the neighbor's concerns in terms of number of lots?
Excuse me, I was just answering a question here. Is that the question?
That was what we were on.
Okay.
Okay, well, you started now.
Okay.
You started. Okay. Yes, if they changed that previous plat and the owners and everybody, a part of that previous plat agreed, then they probably could have 2 driveways side by side. Right now, his property does not touch. All he has is an access easement through there. So he's got permission to go through there, not build 2 driveways or whatever. So I think that's where he's limited. He would have
Okay.
to, is that how you
No,
answer?
and I think that's true. Does he also have utility access through there?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would solve the neighbors' concerns, I
But-
think,
but
of the
the-
traffic on the road, right?
No.
No?
Well, if that keeps them from entering onto Sterling, I
Yeah.
can't imagine any other problem with it.
Yeah, we'd keep them off Sterling. Yeah.
But there's nothing, if I just add one little thing, there's nothing magic about having two easements. It's two accesses is what you're required to have, because if you've got more than three on one, then you've got to go county spec, which would be hideously expensive. But whether it's one easement or, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
You just need two accesses. And that easement's got to be wide enough to have the accesses, the drainage, the utilities. So there's going to be a minimum
Right.
number of feet required to do all that. But if that one is wide enough to do all that, and they amend the plat to show that and give that access, then that's what.
Then it
they
keeps
can
it
do.
off Sterling, which eliminates the concerns about that traffic.
If I may have, one more.
Yes, sir.
Earlier, Brian had mentioned that if it doesn't, he didn't envision it coming straight down as it's written here. That was kind of how he said he likes it for it to
Down
meander.
his fence line.
So, can we, because if it meanders, then all of a sudden now it's on my side of that pond. And so I'd kind of like to know if that straight line
Right,
is.
I don't think that's what he was saying at all.
No. You
Brian?
can't put it on your property anyway.
Okay, I just heard meander, and it wasn't gonna go along the fence
I
line,
think he was
so.
just saying not a straight line. He was wanting a little bit more of a.
That's correct. It would never go on the left side of the pond, so it wouldn't be close to their
You were just
property
not
line.
wanting a straight
It wouldn't be
line.
a straight shot down a fence line. It would come down through there.
A nice little country drive back there.
Thank you. You got it.
All right, do we have any other comments?
My name's Milton Adams, and I live next to Brian. We've been there 22 years together, and they're great neighbors. In late 1996, the John Ward Farm on 378 Carrot Pike became the Sterling Valley Development. Some of you may remember that. In March of '97, my wife and I purchased the first lot that was sold on that development, 18.5 acres, and developed it into a mini equine farm. Being a dream come true, and with the surrounding beauty of the land, we named the farm A Bit of Heaven Farm. The name is still out there on the fence to the gate, next to the gate. Over the years, 19 other families have bought lots ranging in size from 5 to 60 acres in that development, of which there are 6 horse farms. The road that runs through the heart of the community is Sterling Drive. It's a road that children ride their bikes and people of all ages ride their horses. It's a road where its neighbors come together, set up tables, and bring a dish to pass. In 2023, that's probably hard to imagine, but it's a community that way, where we try to help each other, and we do help each other. There's not a person I wouldn't help at 2 o'clock in the morning, and everybody else out here would do the same thing. It's a road where we look out for each other. Brian and Carla have been our next door neighbors for 23 years. They have a beautiful lot, and they both work hard to keep it in immaculate condition. Brian's out there every week on that mower. Rain, shine, it doesn't matter. He's cutting grass. And they both work to keep it clean and nice. We feel that the road through this yard has a high potential to open a Pandora's box. We don't know what the future will hold. That road, once it put in, Brian and Carla had no control over it. Anybody and everybody has access to that road. So I don't want to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and hell's angels coming riding through that road. So that's a concern that we have, be it legitimate or not. Maybe there's an answer there that I don't know about. With regard to the request for this access road to Sterling, we don't feel it's in the best interest of our community right now, unless we can be convinced otherwise. There are just too many unanswered questions as to where this could eventually lead. A prime example is Taylor Lane. I'm sure all of you probably know Taylor Lane, okay? In 1990, there were 3 houses on that gravel road. Today, there are 14 houses on that same gravel road. So what the future holds, no one can predict. We hold no animosity toward anyone. We wish the Coble family the best as they seek out alternative ways to make this thing happen. So we wish them the best. So if there's a solution that they can live with and it works for them, we're all for it. But I've just shared our concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I could make just a couple of points in response to this. As far as nobody knows what's in this would only be a private easement. This would not be a public road. I can't imagine Hell's Angels spending much time on a private easement that's dedicated to going to, 1 lot or 2 lots, whatever it is. The situation with Taylor Lane is not similar either, because Taylor Lane was a public road, albeit grass and in places trees, long before this development came along. There, years ago, perhaps had been some houses along it, but it had long since fallen out of use. It was still a public road. So when people started coming in and building, it was on a public road. So the county couldn't say, no, you can't, because it's a public road. I didn't realize there were now 14.
Can we say no now because was it gravel at the time?
No, because it was already a public road dedicated to public use.
It was grown up.
In fact, you couldn't even get all the way through to the other end at one time. In fact, much of it, if not most of it, was blocked. But it was a public road. This is not a public road. This would be a private easement, and it would give access to whomever. And that looks like, these one set of owners.
It's coming off a public road, which is Sterling Drive.
Well, it's coming off, but
Yeah.
people can have easements. In fact, the easements come off of every public road we've got. But that doesn't make the easements public.
But once it connects to Sterling Drive, there's no restrictions on who can go down the private drive.
Yes, sir, it is, because they got to go across this gentleman's private property, and they've got to access this couple's private property. That's 2 different things. This is not a public street.
There will be, if the driveway goes through there, we're gonna put like a little, like a horse fence on either side of it, and there will be signs that say private drive. So it's not public, it'll be private drive, and it'll be for their access as a driveway. And the people that I have come fishing will also have access to it. But it's not gonna be it's gonna say, there's gonna be 2 signs on either side of it that say private and
it's
private
not
drive.
going anywhere. It's
No,
not a through street.
Right, it'll go to their property and to the back of my pond, and that's it. That's all the farther it's gonna go.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Hell's Angels, so make sure to call the cops.
Please do.
So I have a question. So if we allow these, like the Verlis property, we allow it to be broken down by law into different lots and all, and then we try to keep these parcels as farmland, because you can only use so many easements and so much off a road, 3 houses off a road. And then we allow, we do this for this reason, then we come in later on and go, well, you come in off this road and put a gravel road back there and have an easement. Well, can the people behind there, can these other neighbors just go off there, buy property off there and put in easements to 3-acre tracts back, to 5-acre tracts back there?
The only thing, and I may be wrong, Ben, you might point something out if I'm missing it, but except for division of private drives, we can't deny anybody access to a public road. Now, with an easement, we can't put a public road across an existing subdivision because the plat's already there and the plat governs. But as far as putting a driveway in, they're all over the place. So no, we can't really do anything about that. And if you've got, and I'm sure there are other examples, but if you're at the back of a subdivision, you can get an access out through the back of it to go to the next road instead of fighting your way through, whatever it might be, say an Indian Hills or something like that.
Or you could put 3 more houses behind you. build another, just
If
access
you've,
lane.
if you've got the property, you
Yeah.
can get a plat approved and so on, and it has access, to a public road, or it has access through an easement
Well, if
to
you
a
own the
public
pro-
road.
if you own the
Still-
property, you just, yeah.
You'd still have to go through the process to get a plat approved and, right, subdivide it. Not like you could just do it
Just do
because
it.
you wanted to.
No, you'd have, that's right.
You have to go through this same
You'd come in front of
process.
us,
Yeah.
and we can decide whether.
Charlie, you ready for a vote?
Well,
Yeah,
let's
well,
talk,
let's-
can we talk about this potential solution of the drive next to it?
Yeah, so, at least, Ben, I think I asked you guys this question because I know the answer. That red, on the map there, right now, that's an easement for 3 lots. I know for a fact that there's no way, no matter what you do in that space of 100 feet, can you have 4 lots. That is the correct answer, correct?
No, it's not. You could, if you paved it and figured out everybody agrees to that, yes, you could.
No, if I paved it to 20 feet and fire hydrants, right? That's the only way I can make that 4 lot. Not just a gravel road. So a gravel road alongside it is not allowed, is what I'm saying.
Right.
As for you guys. 'Cause
It's got to go up to county
it has to be
standards to
county
what?
standards, correct. Meaning,
The only, you do not own that access.
Right,
I think
right,
that's where your problem is. You don't own it. All you have is an easement through there. So to make changes, people that own it would have to agree, so.
but your code says that it's already maxed out to 3. And in order for it to go to 4, it has to be a county road. So
No,
like,
it has to be built to county standards.
Yeah, so, yeah.
But you can have side-by-side easements, access easements, they can all be on the same tract. You just can't have more than 3 on this access, but you could build an access right here, as long as you had room for drainage, utilities, the drivable area and so on, and they serve these 3, and you could do it here. You can't do that on one, although I'll gladly show you some property on 460, but that's
Next
another
month,
matter.
we're gonna have 60 applications with side-by-side gravel drive.
But the reason why that's not gonna happen is because you're eating up some very expensive land. So that's why that's not gonna happen. And if it has, I have not seen that happen, and I've been around a while.
Plus, just like getting permission from Mr. Geary to widen that one, you're also gonna have to get permission from those homeowners off of Carrick.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So we're back the same thing.
Yeah, because there's not many
saying
people
no,
like
it's
Mr.
not an
Gary who
option.
it actually suits his needs. That's a pretty unique situation anyway. That's another reason why I can't imagine we've ever seen this before.
So if that's not a viable option, is it a viable option? I said so that if that's not, is it a viable option though? You talked about putting some limitations on the number of plats to also ease concerns on the numbers.
Yeah, that would obviously, anybody who has concerns of traffic, like I said, right now, we're asking just one family. And if that, the same amount of people that drive down, each one of your drivers would be the same amount of people that drive, me and my wife. I talked to Elise, there is a way to put that restriction in place, attach it to my, to the land, to the deed. I took a big risk doing that. I sacrificed my right, to ever, if my kid says, hey, Dad, let's build a house next to you, I sacrificed that. And I'm willing to sacrifice that because I'm focusing on the dream right now for me and who they are now, and I'm taking your advice that I won't like them after 18. But
I have a 14 and 21, almost 21-year-old, I'm telling you, it's a dicey period.
And like I said, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Not only is it that sacrifice, but it's also the fact that, like Lindsay was saying, if I ever were to sell, that restriction stays with my land. Now, whoever buys, if I were to sell, and somebody wants to buy that land, it's going to be written down. Hey, this is a restriction. Just like somebody wanted to buy Brian's land. Hey, there's easement. So he knows what he's doing, and I know what I'm doing. But I'm saying by making these restrictions, and even though I have the right to not make these restrictions because I'm compliant in all the codes.
Understand.
You guys are.
I'm just saying, is there a solution that makes all the neighbors get along?
So
sometimes it's not possible.
restrictions can always change, correct?
They can. But
Right.
I guess what
It's-
I'm trying to say is there's something that, because he's exactly right. Our job is to interpret the planning and zoning guidelines and make decisions based off that. There's nothing in the planning and zoning guidelines that prohibit him from doing it. So what I'm saying, is there something that would at least ease it in the mouths of neighbors and make people a little bit more comfortable?
If there is
not, then
another
so be it.
option for him to have another road that doesn't go through Sterling.
It sounds like that's not an
There-
option.
that's
I heard
not-
there
It's not
was
gonna
an
be
option
viable.
on that.
No.
I think the
They
discussion was
cost.
it's not going to be viable.
It's not.
Be cost prohibitive.
But it could be done.
But he knew that when he bought the property. It is not Sterling Drive's problem to solve what has happened after he bought the property. He talks about his children's dreams. We have dreams. We've set up our dreams. We don't want it. And I wish you would listen to that, because it's, I mean, he can stand up and talk all about his dreams as much as he wants. And again, they're wonderful people, but we had dreams. We've set up our cul-de-sac. We're a community. We don't want this. And there's got to be another option.
And understand we are listening to it. Ultimately, we also have to abide by the planning and zoning guidelines.
We get that. I just don't want to diminish his, this is going to sound so ugly because they really are nice people, and I don't mean it any other way, but their poor planning is not our problem. And I showed those lots a handful of times with Rita Jones. She was the listing agent. She knows her stuff. She drove us around, explained everything. She was very clear. You cannot add any more houses, 3 per 1 gravel road, blah, blah. She went over the whole gamut of the restrictions. There were restrictions attached that I sent my buyers that I could probably find in my emails. So now, and I think it's down to an issue of affordability, maybe buying more than you can afford, having to sell off pieces to now build what you want has now become our problem. So my husband and I didn't buy the 6.5 acres in the house we have with pennies in the bank, thinking that somebody was going to come rescue us or figure it out, or we're going to parcel off this or parcel off that or start a business on the backside. The poor thought process has now created this. And so now it's become a whole Sterling Drive problem, and it's made ugliness amongst the neighbors, and it is not good, and I don't like that. And I think he and I talked about too, if they just were to hang tight in their Cherry Hill house, they could then afford a construction loan.
Ma'am,
and do that route.
I hate to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
Don't be telling him what he ought to be doing.
That was told by me.
I want you to tell me why you opposed to it, and that's it.
Right,
Please.
he told me that himself.
Okay.
That's
All
not
right.
my opinion.
But that's it.
The reason he wants to do it's irrelevant to the discussion, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? What is the plan? What would be any conditions of approval? Does it meet the planning and zoning guidelines? And certainly, we want to hear the neighbors' input in terms of impact.
Yeah.
But the reason that he's doing it isn't relevant to
And I
our
think you've
decision.
heard our
We can't make
input,
it
and I
relevant.
wish I would have been told ahead of time that if this was gonna be a waste of our time, that, like, if it's just
No.
got,
We've
it's not a
listened to
waste.
you. That's
If it
not a
just-
waste of your
Okay,
time.
if it just
That's why I
has
was
to
trying
check
to come up with a
boxes and
potential
dot
solution.
Ts, then like, we've already done that. Like, it doesn't go against anything, sounds like they can do it, but we are opposing it. I now have to look at my backyard and see a road that was not there prior to. It diminishes my property value. It's going to diminish Brian's. And so the answer is no.
Yeah, and we are listening. That's why I was trying to say, what is a potential solution that might be able to make it more palatable? Understand that we have certain things we have to go by law.
Yeah.
But what could make it more palatable? And that's why I was trying to come up with solutions. So
Yeah,
we're
and
listening
I told him I
and
would
trying to help,
try to do
but,
that too. Yeah.
ultimately,
Is there
why he's
anybody
doing it
over
is
there
irrelevant.
ever put themselves in his shoes? Because what he wants to do is the same thing that you all are doing. He wants to have a nice little farm. He wants to take care of his family. Brian's been gracious enough to try to help him out, and it just seems, I know that community thing is a whole lot, and I'm sure Brian's been out there longer than most of you that I've heard speak. To me, it's just, I think it's a good idea for them. That's my personal opinion. And evidently the staff does also. But I just don't understand all the bickering and fussing over something, you know, because it's,
We're gonna put this 3-minute restriction
Yeah.
back in
I just have
real
one-
quick.
I have one question that's a
not for the vote.
solution. It's a partial solution.
We're going over the same
Can the
thing.
construction traffic go through Carrick Lane then? So we don't have to deal
All
with
of
it
you all
here?
built houses. There was construction
I
traffic out there when you
30
built.
years ago, we were done.
That's irrelevant.
But in all due respect to your comment, yes, he's talking about his family and he wants to join Sterling Drive. I think that's fine. We don't know him. It could be a potential of selling off 5-acre lots where we now have 3 families.
it's not gonna happen.
He's
Because
already
he's
selling
fixing
one.
to put the restrictions on it, and then that's not gonna
Restrictions
happen.
change.
It has to
could
come
be
back
here
to us
again
in order
next
to
It'll
do
have to
that.
come right here.
Right.
It has to come back to us to get the approval to do that. And then we have this meeting again, but that's just the way that things work. He found a viable way to do it. It's not, there's not a way where there's, you know, a variance here and a variance there. This is all completely acceptable to do that he's doing. And we understand your concerns, but he's got it right because he found a way to do it that is legal and is within our rules.
Do you all realize how many times in the last several years that Rita Jones has been in here slicing up properties and out there off of Carrick Pike? 5 acres at a time, 5 or 6 acres at a time. And you all were probably told it's gonna be farmland behind you. And then, you know, a year or two later, another section gets sold, and then another section gets sold.
Yeah, I think
You
that.
know, you said that maybe the rules have changed and he can sell off 2 acres instead of 5. Well, you all could do the same thing. That would affect you too.
I
You
think
don't
that's
want to do it.
That's a stretch. I don't think that's.
Yeah, and he
anything.
doesn't, because he says he doesn't want to do it. Why can't you accept that as face value when you don't want to do it? That's my only question.
Yeah, I just ask you guys to accept the fact that my husband and I were smart. We pre-planned our lives and where we bought, and I want them to have the same thing for their family. I just don't want it to affect my backyard. Like I will look out now my backyard where I see countryside, and now see cars coming and going, and I didn't spend
You
what
can
I
see 2 cars,
for now.
his and his wife.
But that's more than I can see now, though.
Who else is going out there?
Okay,
And let me say this.
that's
too.
more
It's-
than I can see now.
it's
I bought it not
unreasonable.
wanting to see a car, so 2 is more than 0, which is why we bought what we did.
I think it's unreasonable for anyone to expect when they buy a lot that's been carved out of a farm, that forever around them is going to remain farm.
I
It's
don't think
unreasonable
that.
to expect because other property owners have the same rights with their property that whoever sold you the lot that you built on now. So
Yeah.
we can't say it's okay for that developer, whoever that was, to do it, to sell that land, to parcel it out, but it's not okay to them. What we have to say is, here are the planning and zoning guidelines. Does this or does this not meet it? And the reason he's doing it, whether it's to put money in the bank or to pay to build his house, is irrelevant to any of the
I
discussion.
understand that. I
So-
just want him to go straight to Carrick and not through the side of my yard and out to Sterling Drive.
But you
So
understand
we
that to
can do
go
that.
straight through Carrick, he's gonna have to go through this same process and get approval from the people in the community.
Not if he doesn't sell all those other lots.
That's correct too.
So, may I?
Yes.
He's already got access.
I do want to state that of all, everything that's been said, 95% of what I'm asking.
I'm sorry, can you step up to the microphone?
95% of what I'm asking is not to build a house there. It is actually to come off of Sterling. There's nothing, you mentioned that I'm not very smart. There's nothing dumb about me asking for my 5-year-old to have access, a driveway access off a cul-de-sac. Not everybody here wants that for their 5-year-old. I would have to build a road, 6 B's with a house of those. It would go all the way across like this, here, and then there's no driveway. This is where, if I came up with Sterling, which is a county road, which I have rights to, we had 2 standard poodles, we could walk, we'd have maybe horses in the future we could ride, like all the other neighbors, and one of you guys nailed it. If you look at me, all I am is a younger version of Milton. Milton, I respect you so much, right? And I really do. Actually, I will prove to you, like, I'm looking forward to taking care of people like you. You and I know what you're going through with your wife. 20, 30 years from now, you may not be here, right? I will be here. And I will be taking on what you've been doing. You may pass, and then who knows what will happen to his 20 acres. Same thing. He can divide up into 4 other lots, and they will have no choice to accept that. We are, me and my wife, we are the future. The fact that I can't afford to do what I'm asking is actually to your benefit, because if I turn around and sell this to somebody who can, you will see 4 or 5 houses there. Take it as a positive thing. So my ask is not, hey, I just want to build a house there any way possible. No, my ask is I want to be part of Sterling for obvious reasons. And the fact that they're fighting it shows me that it's definitely worth it. I want to be part of your neighborhood because, you know what? I guarantee you, give it a couple of years, we're all going to be best friends. You're going to be really happy. I'm there. When I came to the States, 7 years old, the first time ever seeing a sidewalk, the first time I've ever seen a lawn, I didn't know what that was. I'm from the Ukraine. We used a sickle to cut grass. Ever since wherever house I owned or rented, I had the best lawn. And I was the guy sitting on a lawn chair telling cars to slow down. I have little kids. I changed the speed limit sign. I want to petition change the speed limit sign because it was incorrect for my neighborhood. I am an asset to this neighborhood. I promise you that. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
All right. Yes, sir.
I'm back. Okay, so my understanding is there is no way for them to come off Carrick unless they do a paved road. Is that correct? Okay. You can't put side-by-side gravel?
They can improve the road and pave it, if they choose to.
Right. But like I said, you can't put 2 gravel drives side by side off Carrick.
So, what are you trying to say? What's your question?
Well, is there another way other than coming up Sterling? You know, they're going to build a house. There might be 2 houses. That means we're going to see concrete trucks, gravel trucks, lumber trucks, contractors for 2 years, 1 to 2 years, up and down our street. And I know they have the right to do that. But I'm just wondering if there is another way they can put another gravel drive side by side off Carrick.
I think we've been through that, and I don't think there is. Right? Didn't we?
Yeah, I think so, but maybe we need to postpone this 1 month so that staff and Yuri can get together and talk with the county road department and put this to bed once and for all, what can be done and what can't be done.
But do you all have that answer already? Will you state that clearly, the answer to his question about this road?
We spent a year trying to find a way to come off of Carrick. Like my husband said, we wanted to be a part of this wonderful neighborhood and be a part of Sterling for all the reasons we've already gone through. But we tried to figure out a way to come off of Carrick. We've gone through every single avenue. The cost is substantial. There was no other way, we were told, other than to grant easement through somebody else's property. And the fact that we found this amazing blessing, that it benefited him just as much as it benefited us, this was really our only option. And so that's kind of where we're standing right now. And I understand the neighbors' concerns. I maybe would be concerned too if I was in that position. But and I do apologize that we didn't come to people earlier with this. I guess I had no idea that a driveway was going to cause such an uproar. So if I would have known, I would have knocked on every single person's door way before we even proposed this and talked with the neighborhood. But yeah, here we are, and I don't want to be on bad standing with anybody. We're hopefully going to be neighbors. So
there's no reason.
I don't have anything else to say.
Okay.
All right.
I just got real quick. I just want to add this. as the property owner that the easement is to go through, do I have the right on my own property to put a road, a driveway down to the back of my pond for other people to use? That's one question that I would ask the board. Do I have that right?
Sure.
Okay, so I can let as many people as I want come and fish down that road as I want, because it's a public road, right? And I'm allowing them to have access.
No, it's a private road.
You're giving an access.
Well, my drive, but the road to that is a public road. They can come up the public road and come down my private driveway that I put down there.
Yes.
Okay, so they can't limit the amount of people that come out to my house to fish. That is what I'm getting at.
Yep.
Okay, so they can't limit the amount of traffic. And the other thing that I want to say to go along with that, at one time in our neighborhood, there were 7 teenagers that had driver's license all at the same time. How much traffic does that bring into a neighborhood? You got your own kids, there are friends coming in and out of the neighborhood. Now they've all grown up and they're all gone. There are 5 little kids in the neighborhood now that'll grow up and be teenagers and get driver's license. So do we not want them to drive on the street if we're worried about the traffic? Because that's what I'm hearing, they're concerned about the traffic. Is that what they're telling me? They don't want their kids to have driver's license because they don't want the increased traffic on the street. That's what I'm hearing. And I don't care if kids drive up and down that street. Like I say, my kids did it. Some of the ones that are here, their kids did it too. And that's all I'm saying about that is it's a public road. You can't limit access to a public road. And if I choose to put the driveway down to my pond on my own property, they can't tell me I can't do that either, is what you just told me, correct? That's all I got to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can we enforce the speed limit on the road?
You need to talk to the sheriff's department. All right. I will take any type of motion.
I'd like to make a motion, Charlie.
Close the hearing.
All right.
FSP.
This wasn't a public hearing, was it?
No.
No.
FSP 2024-08 to deny, not to approve.
I second that.
So what was the motion? I'm sorry.
Not to approve?
Not to approve?
Correct.
All right. And Brad?
Second.
Shouldn't we put in the record a reason for that? Since staff has said it complies with all of our regs?
Just access and safety of the whole,
Then we need to
everyone involved.
then you need to make a finding that there's too much traffic. This is somehow creating a safety risk in that on Sterling Drive.
For those, that which has been stated here several times, people have testified.
I don't think we have established that it's a safety risk, though. There's an opinions that it is. I don't think we've established that the traffic is too heavy or that there's a safety risk.
Without making that
Okay.
part of the motion.
Okay. All right. All right, we have a motion and a second not to approve the staff recommendation. So a yes vote would be not to approve.
To deny.
To deny it. A no vote would be to accept the staff recommendation. Okay? So we make sure that we're voting on whichever way you want it to.
So you're saying that my motion is to say yes?
Yeah, your motion, if you want to agree with Mr. Jesse, will vote yes. Okay. Mr. Jesse?
Yes.
Mr. Vest?
No.
Mr. Stone?
No.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
No.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Ms. Singer?
No.
And the chair will vote no.
So I'll make a motion to approve PSP 2024-09.
I'll second it.
No, sorry, that's the wrong one. That was VTech, sorry. I'd already flipped the page.
Oh, wait.
It is
So
2024-01.
do we need to
Do we need to make a
approve
motion?
it? Do we need another vote to approve it?
So,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Okay,
And 2024-01, sorry.
okay.
I'll second it.
Oh, one, isn't it 08?
Oh, wait,
Well, I'm sorry, I just flipped papers too soon tonight.
I'd like you to turn them even faster, but you
That's
probably can't for the
Sanderson, you're
purpose of a
right,
motion.
you're right. David stole my papers over here, I think is what it is.
No, David.
Put it on somebody, huh, David?
okay, we've got a motion by
Second.
Ms. Singer
It's 08, by the way.
Yeah. And a second by David Vest. Ms. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
No.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
No.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
All right. So,
And the chair
that-
votes.
oh, and the chair votes yes, I'm sorry. I still have to fill it out here. All right.
So turn away, we have to prove it.
All right.
We have to prove everything that fits our regs, and this does.
Cole, you need to come up and see Mr. Perkins, sign your documents
As long
there.
as it meets our regs, and this does.
All right, the next item on the agenda tonight is PDP 2024-09, VUTEC expansion, preliminary development plat to expand existing building by 4,200 square feet across 2 acres located at 100 Carly Drive.
Thank you. As Charlie has stated, their VOTEC is looking to expand their building by about 4,200 square feet. The current site is 19.69 acres, zone I-1 light industrial, adjoined by, to the east, A1 and B4, with access onto either Caden Lane or Carly Drive to Lemons Mill Road on outwards. It's part of the Georgetown Industrial Park. Some more information on the existing conditions. We're talking about a property that's about 314,000 square feet, developed in multiple phases since prior to really us kind of keeping an eye on them prior in the 80s and everything like that. And they are looking for a front yard setback variance from 50 feet to 20 feet for these additions. So this is kind of the property here with all of the roads. Hopefully it's pretty visible, but you can see, given that this lot is kind of located at the corner, it is a quadruple frontage lot, so all 4 sides are front yards, which means they have the 50-foot setback from property line and right away, as opposed to most parcels, which just has 1, and in some instances, none. So anyway, so they have some front yard setbacks all the way around, and you can kind of see with the way that the roof lays, you can see those additions that have been made to the property as need is required and demand is increased for the uses. And this is a similar use. I believe in 2018 was our most recent addition. It was not a building addition, it was a parking lot kind of improvement as staff demands increased and facilities demanded more space for their staff and employees and guests. So those are the 2 areas identified in pink and a lighter blue color as A and B. So this is an aerial kind of shot here of the property, and then this is it zoomed in. So we had discussed at the workshop some kind of questions about this kind of cutout into the property just west of Area A. There's a lot of existing air treatment and other kind of utilities types things, fans, those types of features. So it's not technically under roof, but it is in an area that is being actively utilized, but obviously not junk because this is an aerial for this. You can see the property lines in orange, the I-1 setbacks in blue, and then the requested variance. You can kind of see along kind of really all of the sides that these have encroached into the setbacks previously, and these additions are made to try to facilitate greater manufacturing capacity. And so ultimately staff does recommend approval. It's kind of incidental to the use. And again, with this layout, as these kind of attached pieces and parts as needed. It kind of fits the character and the style that this property has been developed since the mid-80s. As part of this, they do need to do some regrading to that kind of north portion at Lemons Mill and McClellan Circle and remove some existing trees, kind of replanting them or replacing them with some new trees that would fill in where that area of existing trees once were. They have requirements for property perimeter landscaping, for frontage, but non-accessing arterials. And there are tree canopy requirements for this, which they do have a pretty notable amount right now. They just need to make sure that in their further development that they continue to maintain the minimum required tree canopy for the site. You can kind of see the areas identified in green here is the areas where we can see identified tree canopy. There may be additional ones that aren't shown right now, but we're expecting them to meet or exceed the requirements for tree canopy. Ultimately, staff recommends approval of the request subject to 10 conditions of approval. The variance is also being recommended for approval from 50 feet to 20 feet. First 4 are typical 4. Next 3 are also typical. I would like to identify condition 10 with the stormwater BMP. They just need to make sure that they are satisfying the requirements as stipulated by the recently passed ordinances passed previously, to make sure that they're in good standing with essentially the city ordinances and their BMP requirements. Besides that, though, there's no further kind of thoughts that we have from a staff.
Any questions from staff? I mean, to staff? From the commission? All right. Do we have owner or representative?
Good evening. I'm Steve Baker, Midwest Engineering. We did the development plan. Not a whole lot to add. I did want to just kind of give a little bit more detail, just in case you're interested about why they're expanding. So the folks from VUTEC have actually won. They said, these are some numbers they gave me recently, 54 new part numbers, new contracts for new part numbers that they're going to be building. It's going to require 48 new injection tools. And so they're also modernizing some existing processes and adding a bunch of really heavy machinery. So the additions that you see there are going to have some pretty beefed up foundations as well, just so they can expand their capacity to make parts and pieces that are essential. So I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Any increase in head count? No.
They have tentatively said maybe eventually up to 70 new jobs, but that's not going to be, I think, they didn't give me a timetable on that. So.
All right. Any questions for Steve? Now, that one in blue, that area B down there, I mean, it gets close to the road. You don't have a whole lot of room in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure they realize that. But
that's the area where we're requesting the variance to
yeah.
So right now, the existing building is about 30 feet from the property line, so it's already kind of operating under a previously approved variance.
Right.
And so we're getting kind of close to that corner, and I think this, I don't want to speak for the future, but this probably is the limit to how much they can go in that direction, obviously, and still make the grading work. One of the other challenges we had was being able to tie back in at or near the property line so we wouldn't have to have any steep grades on the right of way, so.
It's going to be
able to do that.
Tough to get equipment in there anyway.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a challenge.
All right. Thank you much.
Yep, thank you.
Any questions? All right. I'll take a motion.
I'm going to make a motion, because I'm going to use the right number this time. I'm going to make a motion for approval of PSB 2024-09 for approval of it.
Second.
And Dan Smith, second. Ms. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Jesse?
Yes.
Mr. Vest?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Right. Now we're down to ZMA 2024-10 at 944 East Main Street. This is a zone change request for property currently zoned C1, B5, and B2, located on the northwest corner of East Main Street and McClellan Circle. And this is a public hearing, so I will open the hearing.
Thanks, Charlie. This is a 33.74 acre parcel located at East Main Extension and McClellan Circle. It's on the northwest side of that intersection. It does have some floodplain, so that's where we're seeing the C1, and it had been previously rezoned for B5 and B2 uses. We have recently, in the past 6 months or so, seen a development plan for one of the corner lots, and last month we saw the subdivision plan for 7 commercial lots. So this is kind of my background on it. They're looking to, and have submitted the zoning map amendment in order to rectify some discrepancies on where the boundaries of the zones are. We've seen a couple like this in before, specifically off of Lemons Mill Road with around the Hucks property between East Main and Lemons Mill, and we also saw it in a lesser scale in Stamping Ground off of Mulberry, where we had 3 zones for one residential kind of area, and they're kind of working on it and everything like that to get it all up to snuff and get the property lines to align with zone lines. So this is an aerial here. You can kind of see, the easiest one to see is the northernmost one, where you can see that little sliver of B5, but there are some pockets to the west as you go up East Main Extended that are B5 that these new lots would kind of have some contrast to, so they're looking to kind of get it all under B2. This is an aerial right now. The property, it is undeveloped. Again, we do have a preliminary development plan in for a kind of convenience store gas station at the corner of McClellan Circle and East Main Extended. This is what the plat looked like when we were doing our subdivision. You can see 5 lots with frontage off of McClellan Circle, 1 lot with frontage off of East Main Extended, and then a northern lot that's mostly entirely floodplain. So they're looking to kind of fix all this up. I will give Rhett the credit for drawing this up, but
Pretty red. Love the colors.
it's very fun, and he very long. He took a lot of time to make this, but you can kind of illustrate and see the 4 areas where the zoning map lines don't align with the parcel lines. So essentially just kind of getting these to align with the plan for the future, get everyone kind of on the same page, and then going forward for development. When we refer to zoning map amendments, we refer to KRS 100.213 that stipulates our requirements. We look to see if it is in alignment with our comprehensive plan that's been adopted, or if not, there's 2 other standards that we would consider. After a review of everything like that and review of the concept plan, this area is expected for commercial use, and so having it being one of the commercial subtypes is appropriate, and having these split zone parcels really makes it difficult to ensure that users are keeping their uses in the right locations and having the zoning map lines align with the property lines and the proposed parcels. Really kind of allows for this more clean look and clean understanding of what can go on these properties and address some issues that were identified and are now being addressed. I would like to note again, there is some floodplain on the property, so a lot of the floodplain is going to be remaining the same. It is standard that we require rezoning for floodplain from whatever the base zone is to C1 in order to ensure that we protect that floodplain. And so those areas, we're not pulling floodplain pieces, we're just pulling these little strips and little pieces that are a different zone than its main base parcel that it would be belonging to. The comprehensive plan also talks about and supports this in development with internal streets. And while it's not being actively considered right now, this development plan or this zoning map amendment would facilitate subdivision and development plans that would have access to internal streets, thus reducing the kind of pressures on main roads and making sure that everyone is proceeding safely and not having too many entrances off of main highways. Ultimately, staff recommends approval with 2 conditions: that they get a preliminary development plan approval for any of their commercial lots, each and any, and they adhere to the zoning ordinance and subdivision and development regulations.
Can you educate me, because it's not a zone that we talk about much, what is the definition of conservation, C1?
Conservation is like a floodplain use. It has similar allotments for like what you would see with an agricultural zone. It has 50-foot setbacks, but it's more focused on having usable preserve area for like lakes and streams and those types of deals. And it, since its inception, any kind of new development that we're seeing in that has floodplain is getting that conservation designation, because it really kind of limits pretty strongly the ability to really develop in the floodplain, thus protecting it from any potential negative impacts of nearby development.
So can,
Presentation on all that if you wanna.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I got a good presentation on all that.
Can it count as education hours, continuing education? I'll sign
I
up
don't
for
see why
it.
not.
Hey, let's do it.
The history of the conservation and protect the water quality and the waterways and
Okay.
all that.
All right.
It applies to commercial, can't
Okay.
apply.
can you build in the sea?
With a lot of limitations, a lot of it because it's floodplain, stuff has to go through floodplain permitting with Ben. So there can be some things, there is a 50-foot setback though. So when you're considering that, you're really being pushed inward into more floodable areas, which is typically less than ideal when people are trying to build.
So just like along the Kentucky River or something, people put cabins up on big stilts.
You could potentially, it would be very tenuous and it would be a long process to get permits.
Can you go back to Ritt's
Well, the
map?
amphibious housing. This one?
Yeah, that one right there. So the blue area, it's listed as lot number 2, but basically it's all in floodplain.
Correct.
Now, I know that part down there by the creek is right on the creek, but, you get higher up on the hill up there, so, can anything be built in any part of that?
Build a trail.
Yeah. Trails.
But no buildings?
There's limited recreation, stuff like that that you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
And it'll still be zoned in C1.
Mm-hmm.
all right.
Boat ramp, boat,
Boat ramp.
boats,
Yeah. Okay.
fish houses, those types of things.
Go to seafood restaurant there.
Floating bait shop.
Amphibious housing.
All right, let's get back on track here. All right. Any other questions for Elise? I will take a motion.
Do we need to close the public hearing?
Do we vote before we close the public hearing or not?
I thought we closed and then voted.
Think we
Yeah,
closed
I
it.
have no idea. Generally,
think
I
we
would say
close
close
and
it
then
and then
All
vote.
right, I'm closing the public hearing. Pardon?
Yeah, she wants to. Yeah, so you better
Oh,
open it back up.
yes,
She wants
I'm
to
sorry.
open it back up.
I'll open the public hearing back up. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. First of all, I'm Martha Wilson, and we live over by the college, so near this property. We've driven past it for many years. And I will acknowledge that this is really late in the process. Some of us in the family wrote letters to the editor, but we never made it to a meeting with you all for various reasons. Sometimes rather out of the way, and sometimes we just couldn't get ready. And I also want to apologize. Probably what I'm going to say is more suitable for a letter to the editor, but I've never been at one of these meetings, so this is just, if it sounds kind of weird to you, please. Okay, so here's my
It
comments.
won't be any weirder than anything we've heard before, I promise.
And also, thank you. It's been interesting. You guys, such responsibility, and you really handle it graciously. It's kind of rough here sometimes and hard, and I appreciate that. So here we go. When one arrives in Georgetown from the east on Main Street, one is met with an impressive entrance that lets you know that you're entering historic Georgetown. Of course, every town is historic in some way, but I assume that this proclamation's purpose is to let us know that important history happened here, and that its residents still value that history and the knowledge of it. In proceeding through the town, there is evidence that this sign is not an empty boast, for the city hall is being repaired for a hefty price, the downtown stores and houses are well preserved, and people have plenty of opportunity to know that a Baptist pastor named Elijah Craig created bourbon right here in Georgetown. However, if you follow Main Street where it goes straight and the main road curves left, cross the railroad tracks and approach McClellan Circle, you would have reason to be disappointed after that promising entrance. For this lovely and historic pocket of land is slated for commercial development that will effectively obliterate traces of significant history that happened in Georgetown. There were or are multiple historic threads that come together here. Relatives of Daniel Boone built the house that stood there for over 200 years. Barton Stone lived there for 15 years, a respected leader in the Second Great Awakening. Mr. Stone also farmed while he lived there, and that agricultural heritage has continued up to the present. They were still farming this year. It is a special place tucked inside the circle with Elkhorn flowing along its north edge. I do understand that additional taxes from commercial property are welcomed by those who bear responsibility for the city budget, and I do believe in property rights for landowners, but sometimes those financial considerations overshadow other things even more valuable. So I'm speaking tonight just in case there's any way that a solution can be found that preserves the beauty and the wonderfulness of that place as well as being agreeable to its owners. If the commercial planning does go through as planned, it will be a step in making Georgetown less distinguishable from other cities, less interesting, less beautiful, less historic. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson, appreciate it. So did you say you lived on West Main Street?
No, we live on Fountain.
Oh, where?
Fountain.
Oh, Fountain, okay, yeah. All right. All right, any other questions or comments? I'll take a,
You need to close the hearing again, sorry.
I'll close the public hearing again and take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve ZMA 2024-10.
All right, I have a motion.
I'll second
A second by James Stone. Mr. Stone? Yeah. Mr. Garrett?
Stephanie did a good job.
Yes. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Vest?
Yes.
Mr. Jesse?
Yes.
Ms. Singer?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you for coming. It was very eloquently put. As a native of Georgetown.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Ms. Wilson, when I was growing up, that Main Street Extended, as we call it then, I
Still call
believe
it that.
most of that was still gravel. It hadn't even been, it hadn't been paved yet out to the old Barton Stone place, the Drake property
Yeah.
out there. And then go on out to the rock quarry, which is on out over the backside of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where I used to park.
Now you're telling all your secrets, Charlie.
All
You
right.
know you're on hot mic then, talking about
Yeah,
going
nobody
parking.
could
You
hear
know,
me.
it's just sad that this town is nothing like it was when I was.
Yeah, that's true.
Nothing like,
And that's the thing.
All right, we talked with Joe at the planning meeting the other day, and he presented the budget, and he had to, did he turn that into city council?
We need
Tuesday?
endorsement
Huh?
before, we need like approval from you guys before we would take it to city council.
Okay, so we need to approve the fiscal year 24-25 draft budget that we have looked at and discussed several times.
so we just need a motion for.
Need a
approval.
motion and a vote,
So I will make a motion for the proposed, for approval of the proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget.
I will
Or
second.
endorsement of it, I guess, whatever the right word is.
I will second that.
All right, we've got Ms. Singer. And second by Dan Smith. All right, Ms. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. All right. And then we need to elect officers for this coming year. And I had expressed desire to stay on as chairman. And if there's anyone else that would like to be considered, make that be known now, and we'll have a vote. By the way, I talked with Mr. Perkins this week, and he told me that as Robert's Rules of Order, that I should conduct even my own election.
Yeah, we won't trust your counting, but.
Election integrity issues.
No, but when we go to count, I would be in there. So if there is any other person that would like to be considered for chairman, I'll take a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Jesse?
I make a motion that you be appointed chairman, continue on.
Mr. Jesse did that, will you make it a second?
Second, I'll second it.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, for vice chair, we have, I understand, a couple of people that would like to be considered for vice chair. Mr. Jesse and Ms. Singer. And I also talked with Mr. Perkins, and we felt the best way to do that would be by a written vote. We've got, oh, you've got paper?
I just ripped up the thing.
Oh, okay.
I figured it would be easier so everyone has theirs.
And that way we can.
Then I'll go reflect them.
Give me two, I want to vote for
I think that's.
And then
And then they can hold it.
we will ask Elise and Rhett and Mr. Perkins to look over the votes here and
Just like fold them once or
a
twice.
couple of times there.
Just so we can have it, maybe not a ball and like a origami swan, because that's kind of hard, but like.
You need your cup.
I know, I do need a cup.
I think I have still coffee in there, so that's.
Yeah, I didn't want to do
Oh,
that.
I thought that was your spit.
Yeah, it's my spittoon.
You ain't supposed to be chewing the bike in here.
Just for you.
Dan had to do it.
And
It's trying to be good on
if I
video,
can make
right?
a point of order, I understand why you wanted to let the 3 minutes go, but I think after tonight, I think we probably have a pretty good example that we need to keep it going.
I think we
I think it needs to be 5 or 6,
It
though.
need to, yeah, you're exactly right.
I think we can go
Five is
5.
reasonable.
Five
I
is
will say,
reasonable.
I wonder
You were
if
gonna change it.
it's necessary that it applies to applicants.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like applicants should be able to give their presentation of,
Well, yeah.
almost in response to whatever the,
Exactly, and especially if the staff denies the
exactly,
application.
yeah.
And,
It
you
seems
know,
like
if
if,
the staff approves it, then there's not a whole lot to say. But,
unless like tonight, there's still a lot of controversy
yeah,
around it, right?
exactly.
It seems like it should not apply
And the answer
to
is?
the applicant.
yeah.
A tie, right?
We have a tie. We have a tie for vice chairmanship right now, so we will take another vote and as.
Mr. Perkins?
Unless Charlie
You know,
has.
one thing just occurred to me. Robert's rules basically say you keep voting. In fact, they even gave an absurd example where there were
Start with bid.
3 candidates and nobody ever got a majority, and they just, there they go. But one possibility is, since we're a little shy on members tonight, is you could continue that particular race to next month, when hopefully we'll have not just an odd group, but an odd number. Or both.
Somebody can no-show.
That's, I think it's an excellent idea coming from our legal staff. All right.
Charlie, would we like the executive committee position appointment now, or would you recommend waiting?
Oh, no, you go ahead and do that.
We do have a vacancy regardless of vice chairmanship on the executive committee. Typically, it's vice chair, chairman, and then 3 members at large, keeping 2 from the city, 2 from the county, and then the other person just a wild card.
Can Ms. Singer stay on until a new one is elected?
Well, and that's the rule. So she
Okay.
would be for one more month.
Yeah.
if-
Yeah.
and
So we
then
would be
depends
essentially
on who
filling
gets
the
elected.
vacancy. So right now we have 4.
Yeah.
And then
Oh.
Mary's is on as vice chairman, so we still kind of have a not chair, but could be on executive
We're still-
spot.
Because Rhett Shirley was on the executive committee, and he's now full-time staff there, so we need
For 6
someone
months.
else
Yes.
that would, may want to be on the executive committee besides Ms. Singer, myself, Dan Smith.
I would like to identify very quickly, David, Mary, and Dan are county appointees. Charlie, you are the only city one. So in keeping with the bylaws, we need to have a city appointee take the position, the vacant spot right now.
So that would be Mr. Garrett.
Mr.
Or
Garrett.
Mr. Jesse.
Haroldine, yes, sir. Or potentially we could force it on the new person. Charlie, would you also be willing to push this another month, or would you like to have this today? Should we just do it today?
Pushing this another month to fill up a slot, and that's perfectly fine with me.
It's at your discretion for that one, unless Dewan or Haroldine is feeling particularly inclined to take that.
I'm willing.
You want? All right, then all right, we'll take a
Now,
vote.
there is going to be a delay on the new board member for that. They did not get the
Yes,
applicants.
we are aware that they didn't make an appointment. To our understanding, they're gonna try to see about, potentially
done in
getting a
April.
candidate ready for the April meeting, so we can get them
Yeah.
prepped and ready.
The mayor had originally said he would have someone for the March meeting.
That's
but
right.
Mhm, correct.
Now he said it should have it ready by April.
Correct, that's our understanding, yes. So, is this a vote, Charlie? Or is it just a,
Well, I don't, well, number one, that's entirely up to the chair. So you can go ahead and fill that slot, or you can wait. I mean, I don't know what the odds are that we're gonna have to have an odd number, in the next month.
Well, even if the mayor's gonna appoint it and they're gonna be brand new, and I
Well,
think someone with
that's
Mr.
true.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Garrett's
Yeah, good point.
expertise and experience.
he's like, oh man, cut him off, my man's a liar.
So at least if I was hearing
Somebody
you
need to make a
correctly,
nomination.
so
Do we need to-
right now we have the right people on the board as far as the numbers that's supposed to be in the city, the county, Sadieville, and Stamping Ground. Is there a problem with that?
So, the bylaws state that in the executive committee, you have the chair and vice chair, and then three kind of at-large members. But of those 5, 2 are city appointees and 2 are county appointees. And so presently, we have Mary, who's a county appointee, David, who's a county appointee, joint sort of with Stamping Ground, and Dan, who at this time is still the Sadieville county appointee. So that puts us at 3 for the city, or for the county. So if we want to keep in line with the bylaws, with only 1 city representative and only 1 spot remaining, we need to put a city member on this executive committee in order to satisfy the bylaws.
But how about within the board, the planning commission itself? Are we within the?
With the completion of Rhett's spot, we would be satisfying that, because there would be 4 city appointees, 4 county appointees, and then 1 member that's joint, which is James.
Okay.
So he's kind of an anomaly in and of yourself.
I'm the wild card.
He's the wild card.
Never been told.
He's already moved seats. He's a wild card. Crazy man. James isn't on the
I
corner.
had this seat to start with when I first started. Frank
And they
Wiseman
bumped
right
you
here
over?
said- They moved me over and I got moved down to the lower end, so that's the reason I say nothing. I just sat here. Even when they
So
asked for votes, I just.
he's like, wait, me?
He had to move closer because he couldn't hear from that last.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. So
I did get a thank you note or something from Judge, but not from the mayor.
thank you, nope.
So maybe I'm out.
I
they
think
didn't tell
you.
you.
I'll have to check the minutes
you
to see on
haven't,
you. But I guess does that answer your question, Haroldine, about the
Yeah, 'cause
how
I-
this ratio works out?
There was a question I heard in the community that was asking about the makeup of the board.
yeah.
I thought there was a number missing. So
No, we're representing everybody equally. The seats have been apportioned correctly. We're just waiting on filling the seat
just a question.
that's left over. Yes, it's important to know what's what, and hopefully, yeah. So,
All right.
yes.
So we
Anything
need to
else?
talk about the minute stuff?
Maybe we can do that at the next work session
Okay.
there. Let everybody think about it a little bit, see how you might want to
Yeah.
tweak it. So.
You think wrong.
All right,
Thanks.
adjourn.
Adjourned.
Just do it. I'm not an idiot.